Hello and welcome to Birth of a New Dimension. My name is Aurora, and on this week's episode, I'm going to be speaking more about practical steps that we can do in order to cultivate the timelines that we wish to experience, that we wish to place our awareness upon, and also focus a little bit more on the much more positive beings that we can interact with. I feel like I have devoted a lot of airtime to the lower vibrational entities that occupy the interstices between worlds, and not done enough time describing the other beings, as I've described in other times, how experts do star travel. So I'm going to be focusing on some of the positive players in this episode. Thank you. So, in previous episodes, I've spoken about how experts do star travel. So these are expert, non-terrestrial beings. And this is the idea that it is not necessary to use any form of artifice or technology to perform what we would consider to be supernatural or superhuman feats, supernatural being beyond the description of the natural realm. What humans have been able to experience on Earth, throughout recorded human history of the past 10 or 20,000 years, is a diminishing of reality, or a diminished version of reality, where humans are not really experiencing, let's say, the full range of possibilities. And this is due to the genetic degradation, because as I repeat these phrases over and over because we really do learn through repetition. The idea that our genes were changed, and our genes, or the human genome, is not just the blueprint that describes what is the shape of your nose or what is the color of your eyes. The genome is actually a bridge between the worlds of possibilities and probabilities and the worlds of experiences, what you actually experience. We can look at one's genes as the internalized technological structure that ties the world of possibilities and probabilities to the world of actual experience. So I spoke about this on the webinar that just went by this past week, and the webinar is all about the origins of technology and why it was created. Why is this artifice necessary? And I speak about this topic almost every week here on Birth of a New Dimension, because it really is the most relevant topic to what Earth's surface humans are facing right now. An agenda that has been put forth by technology and by those beings who rely upon technology. And the reason why they rely upon technology is because they are not experts. They need accoutrements or compensatory modes to be able to do what they should be able to do without any extra accessories, let's say. So those are the beings that I always speak about, and focus on. But I'd really like to speak about and focus on the beings who do not require any form of artifice. And also, just to reiterate and make very clear, technology or artifice is not inherently evil. It's art and artifice. These are beautiful things. I'm an artist. I love to create things. However, I recognize that there is a vast difference between what I create and what is alive. And I use the example, I can paint a beautiful picture, a detailed picture of a flower, but if I put water on it and place it in sunlight, that flower does not grow. And it's because it is not in conformity with the higher dimensional structure of energy and consciousness as it flows in the cosmos. This higher dimensional structure is literally the shape of higher intelligence, or the shape of the guiding principle that organizes reality. It is the musical score of the cosmos. And when one is musically literate, quote unquote, it's like being able to read sheet music. You can tell what are the notes, what is supposed to be going on. So to be an expert star traveler, it is necessary first to become literate in the language, in the musical language of the cosmos. And this means for humans at this level that humanity is at, it is necessary to reclaim the higher faculties, which were diminished in their expression due to the genetic squashing. So what do I mean by the higher faculties? I mean the aspects of self that are placed upon the foundation of unconditional love. So if we look at the energy system or the chakra system of your body, these are the energy centers that are like a pyramid or a ladder going upward from the lower dimension to the higher dimension. And lower, this is not an estimation of value. This is an estimation of frequency or tone. Like, this is a high note, this is a low note, but they're both equally valuable in the cosmos. So each one of us has this ladder of frequency within us. We have the lower vibrational aspects of self and the higher vibrational aspects of self. And the fulcrum, where these two aspects of self meet, is the heart, and that is the place of unconditional love. And I say this all the time. Unconditional love. This is not an airy-fairy hippie ideal. This is not romantic love. This is not the idea that you wish to kiss, hug, take out to dinner, or, have beautiful sex with anything that you are loving. This is a different type of love that can be more described as a tone or a frequency. And it is created when there is an equal giving of energy and receiving of energy. Literally, it's like metabolism in one's body. In your physical body, if you ingest an equal number of calories as you expend, you are achieving homeostasis. You have a balanced metabolism. You're not losing weight in starvation. You are not gaining weight in obesity. So this is the analogy of what our movement through time is intended to be. Loving movement through time means that you are equally ingesting as you are emitting. So I've spoken in the past how humans are intended to be real-time broadcasters, not beings who come here, are cut off from the source, collect all of their experiences in like a hard drive of your memory banks, and then turning all of that in at the very last moment of your life. That is not what we were invented for. We were invented to be the eyes and ears and sensory organs of a much, much larger creature, and to send back real-time broadcasts of our experiences in the physical reality. And to whom are we sending these broadcasts? We are sending it to the being that emitted us. So the way that this is structured, there is the 0th dimension, not named 0 because it is worth less, but because it is the presence of everything, and it takes 0 amount of information to describe one's position there. It's the source of everything. Everything is there. And energy is emitted from the source. And so our experience of that emission comes most directly from our nearest star. We see the sun or Sol up in the sky every day, and that star is emitting the photons that we are using as our basic energy. And these photons are not just, as science describes them, like tiny particles of energy. They are like feelers that have been sent out by the sun and by the overarching stellar network. The stellar network is a network of consciousness. It's a network of awareness. Just like the internet on Earth, the computer-based internet is a network of awareness. And each star is like an individual desktop or an individual computer that is on that network. In your computer network, your computer does not lose its sense of individuality just because it is connected to the network. In fact, it grows and expands because it now has access to not only the information in its own personal memory banks, but also all of the information that is available on any memory bank or on any apparatus that's on that whole network. That is what I'm describing when I speak about the stellar network. So first, imagine just how enormous the thought structure of a star is. It is incredibly enormous, incredibly sophisticated. You could think of it as being analogous to a big computer in terms of processing power. How many thoughts the star can have in a moment. This is also how we can understand the extreme differences in identity and time dilation, how difficult it is to have a conversation with a fruit fly when you're a human that can live 100 years and a fruit fly can only live for 3 days at the most. Or how difficult it is to have a conversation with you as a human when you're talking to a redwood tree, and that redwood tree has a dilated time scale that could be 1,000 years, it could be even longer, and you are a mere blip, an incredibly fast-moving, almost imperceptible blip that it's difficult to have a conversation with if you're a slow-moving tree. So now we understand. Stars are not actually slow-moving at all. They have such enormous processing power that for them, a minute can be an eternity. They can process and understand so much that is going on in our 1 minute. The depth and richness of the experience of a star is almost beyond comprehension. The star can understand in 1 minute every single thing that is happening in the biological realm, in a person's life, the multiple possibilities that are present in a person's life, the multiple possibilities of every single molecule and every single electron and photon that are interacting with those molecules. This is, when I say photons are feelers, they are the emissions of the star, and the star is not cut off from those little particles of light. The star maintains its connection of awareness to the light and can tell this is what the light is doing. So our original format or original design of who we are as consciousness containers, just drinking a little water here, was intended to be real-time broadcasters back to our star, back to the source of consciousness in general. We're not supposed to be cut off, and we are supposed to offer, real-time descriptions of what is happening in our. So just as I said, your individual home computer does not lose its individuality when it connects to the larger network. So too do stars not lose their sense of individuality or uniqueness by connecting to the network. And now when I talk about stellar travel as experts do it, it requires purity of one's ego so that you do not lose your sense of individuality when you connect with this much larger network. And when I say ego, I kind of, hesitated a little bit there about which word I was going to choose. This is not the ego that is your temporal self. It is totally appropriate to have a sense of one's eternal self beyond the temporal version of you that is submerged within time, and that is your narrative structure is dependent upon this time and place. You say, this is my name, this is my favorite shirt, this is where I sleep at night, this is my cat, this is my favorite coffee mug. We are determining our sense of identity and who we are based upon our context. And if you do that, then you change the context, then it means you are changing your sense of self. So in order to maintain a strong sense of self, literally coherence within your own light body, when you become submerged within the sea of light and the ocean of consciousness, you have to refine your own consciousness. And this is coming to your true values. When I describe the time vortex, so if you're not new to this broadcast, you hear me talk about this all the time. If you're new, I will describe what the time vortex is. It is one aspect of the chakra or energy center drawing that I draw all the time. And it's shaped kind of like the top of a circus tent, a pointy top, a fat bottom, and two slopes that slope downward. And at the very top, like where the circus tent pole would go through, there's a hole, there's a wormhole to get out of this particular level of reality. And inside of that level of reality, there's a bundle of timelines. And if we were to look at it from the top down, it would look like a circle, like an old-fashioned analog record. And the timelines that are out at the periphery, the first song on the record, those are not the real you. That is not your real personality. That is not your real value system. Those are like the trial and error that you go through as you go on your journey to your true self. So my best analogy that I'm coming up with right now is the dog pancakes. I have an old family friend, and they used to joke that, when they're making pancakes in the morning, the first pancake always gets burned. They're like calibrating how hot is the pan, are things going to cook properly. The first pancakes are always the dog pancakes. And those are what your first life experiences are. When you are born into this life, you die almost immediately after you're born. Either pathological diseases or some mishap during birth. But this is just the learning curve of being here. When you first get here, you die almost immediately and have to circulate back through the membrane of death, reassemble at the starting point, and then try it again on a slightly different trajectory. And we do this through endless iterations. It's not actually the intended usage of this format, but it is necessary at this point in history because of the genetic squashing. When you have your higher faculties activated, you can see through time. You don't have to go through all of the rigmarole. You don't have to explore every single peripheral possibility. So unconditional love, that's like the fulcrum at the center of your being. And the higher faculties are the ones that balance upon that fulcrum. So the higher faculties are your throat chakra. This is communication or truth. And it's everything we do that involves communication. Everything from speaking to gesturing to writing, playing a musical instrument, painting or drawing, anything that we do with our hands, anything that we do with our larynx, almost anything that we do with our mouth. And that does include eating, because you must now think of eating as speaking about your food, speaking the truth of your food. I just ate some beautiful avocado and chips out here in my garden, and as I, focused on the sensation of eating it, I was transmitting that real-time experience through a type of nonverbal language back to the sun, back to the source of consciousness that emanated me and emanated the beautiful avocado and the beautiful food sources. This is the intention for our bodies and what we were supposed to do. So that's throat. On top of there is brow, which is, right up above your eyebrows, and that's the level of insight or understanding that is not clothed with words. And then up above there is the crown. And the crown chakra is one's connection to the higher levels of consciousness in the cosmos. It's where you, quote unquote, plug into the power supply of the cosmos. So these create your higher faculties. It's unconditional love, which is like the fuel for your body system and vehicle. The ability to communicate, the ability to perceive, that's insight in your awareness, and the ability to connect to the source. When we cultivate unconditional love and then send energy through the higher faculties, it makes it possible for us to see time. That means you get to see the array of possible timelines stretching out in front of you. And you get to make choices and navigate those timelines as an informed consumer, right? Quote unquote, as opposed to trial and error. So going through every single possible iteration in your time vortex and exploring every single peripheral possibility before you circulate back to the central core personality that you are, that is not necessary when you actually activate your higher faculties. And you can see, and you can navigate, and you can use your willpower to direct your consciousness towards what would be the spindle or the center of the record. That's where that wormhole is. That is where your path of least likelihood exits this level of reality and joins with, the ocean of consciousness, the sea of awareness. So when I say cultivating your light body until you are coherent, first of all, when I say light body, it's not literally made of physical light that you can perceive with your physical eyeballs. It's made out of non-physical light that you perceive with your insight, your higher faculties. So now you begin to understand. And what it feels like when you begin to perceive with your higher faculties is knowing beyond language. You just have a deep knowing. You just are able to see and understand. It would be like the multidimensional perspective, and to see your timeline stretching before you would be analogous to this. If I said, I'm out of milk, I want to make some coffee, so I'm going to make the choice to get in my car and drive down the street and go to the store and get some milk for my coffee. And if I can see through time, I could see the various unfolding repercussions of that choice. So if I see the unfolding repercussions and they, end in my car is, over an embankment or I'm dead in a ditch somewhere, then I will say, hey, not a good choice, not a good time for me to go to the grocery store. Maybe I should have something else for breakfast. And if I see, I look down this time tunnel and I see myself successfully getting wonderful food and then coming back home and having great breakfast, that is a choice that I choose to make. Without that information, how can we even tell if we are making the right choices? It's almost impossible. And that's not the way our lives were designed. Our lives were designed so that we could make informed choices. It's not a cruel and capricious cosmos that wants us to have to experience suffering and endless death, endless iterations where you die and die and die and come back. That's not actually what the cosmos wants. It's not a cruel cosmos. This has had to be our way of experiencing the time vortex because of the genetic degradation. So about 10 or 20,000 years ago, when we underwent, or when human Earth surface society underwent what I jokingly refer to as the genetic squashing, it changed the shape of human genes and it changed what timelines were possible to be experienced. And I've spoken about this before, that we as inhabitants of Earth are participants in the dream of the planet. And our planet is a dreamer or a creator or an artist, a person that is making things happen. And she absolutely has intentions for the type of dream that she'd like to experience and the type of reality she would like to create. And right now, humans have not been able to effectively participate in that type of reality because of the squashing of the genes. So Earth would like to create a completely comfortable, beautiful, benevolent existence for all life that is here, to really reduce suffering and make our lives, or the life of the biological realm, pleasurable and pleasant, and is unable to do so. We are experiencing a lot of suffering on our present timelines because of the genetic squashing. So literally, it has to do with what you can conceive of, what you can imagine, what you can expect. If you cannot expect or imagine, a peaceful world, if you can only expect and imagine a violent world filled with suffering and brutality, then you literally cannot occupy some of these other timelines. You're stuck on the periphery, experiencing values that are not the true values of the planet. The true values of the planet are actually not merely kill or be killed, or steal from others before they steal from you, or, overpower others and rape them. That's not the dream of the planet at all. That is the dream of the planet being expressed in a distorted fashion. We are at the periphery of the record, not at the center of the record. And the whole idea of exploring the time vortex is that as we go through more and more experiences, we get to make better choices. Our consciousness is refined. And if you can activate and cultivate, or cultivate and activate your higher faculties, then it becomes possible for you to skip the songs that are the boring songs that are all about suffering and death, and instead align oneself with the much more interesting songs that are played at, the very, very end of the record album, right before the needle of your awareness hits that wormhole and exits this level of reality. And I will tell you, that is where we are right now in terms of planetary consciousness. And let's also talk about ascension. I've heard some things, in the community of, let's say, awake, new age people. It's hard to find a good description of people. Some people are very wary now of the term ascension. I applaud your skepticism. It is good to be skeptical, and it is essential for you to really use your own innate compass, your own connection to the divine to guide you into where you need to go. I will use impeccable language. When I speak about ascension, I am speaking about occupying that path of least likelihood, the one timeline that actually exits this level of reality and maintains your continuity of consciousness so that you connect to infinity. You don't die. Your consciousness is eternal. You continue on your eternal journey. It doesn't necessarily mean that you keep on looking exactly the same way that you do. You might not have the same face. Your body might not look exactly the same way. You might undergo a radical transformation of appearance in exactly the same way that a caterpillar radically transforms its appearance in order to become a butterfly. However, science has even done wonderful experiments teaching caterpillars, certain things, like exposing them to a negative stimulus, like a bad smell or something like that, and then testing out the butterflies that they transform into. Do the butterflies still react in the same way to the bad smell that the caterpillars were programmed to move away from? And the answer is yes. The information and experience, life experience of the caterpillar is translated and handed down in continuity of consciousness to the butterfly, the adult winged form. What you are experiencing right now, submerged within time, in this physical existence, this physical level of reality, is analogous to being the caterpillar. You are stuck to the surface of time. You are not yet able to jump off of the surface of your leaf and fly from flower to flower. That would be like flying from moment to moment. You could be in 1701, then you could be in 2017, then you could be in 3017, and you do not have to experience time in a linear format. That would be your adult winged form. However, right now, most humans, when we look around, are in their caterpillar form. Most humans are experiencing time in a linear form. We are undergoing a shift in consciousness that is concurrent with Earth's shift in consciousness, because Earth is reclaiming her dream of a beautiful, comfortable, benevolent, harmonically, or we could say harmonious, symphonic world. This is a symphony of life. All of the organisms are like musicians playing their instruments, and your instrument is like your body, and we are all supposed to add up together to the most beautiful music. So the musicians include the microbial realm, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, everything from insects to redwood trees, humanity, the mineral world, the intelligence of the mineral world, something that science does not necessarily recognize as being alive, but which contains consciousness. I'm speaking about crystals and soil itself, the molecular structure of the earth, the physical soil, is intelligent. Water has intelligence. This is going way beyond what science is willing to recognize, because it does not have effective tools for measuring consciousness. And more. I won't go into naming all of the instruments that are here in this great symphony on earth. I will just tell you that each one of us is like, if you are the piccolo, you're supposed to play your notes. If you are the kettle drum, you're supposed to play your notes at the right time. And we are all supposed to work together to be playing this very beautiful music. And when this, when the band is cooking, when the band is really swinging, everyone is feeling good and nobody is suffering. And we have, of course, diverged greatly from that intended song of the planet. And now we are listening to a very non-harmonic, cacophonous world where biological organisms are not able to integrate harmonically. And this is the problem that we're seeing around us, okay? So because Earth is changing her timelines, Earth is refining her own awareness and moving from the periphery to the center in her own life experience. And we are tiny little cells that are on her physical body. So as she transforms, We need to match that level of transformation. Otherwise, we cannot continue to be a part of her physical body. And what is happening with Earth's physical body is that she is transforming from a caterpillar into a butterfly. And it's necessary for each one of us to make the same transformation if we want to be a part of the new dream of reality. Just collecting my thoughts. Back to impeccable language and establishing and defining terms of what I actually mean by ascension. So I understand that some people are cautioning, from manipulators who are using the idea of ascension to mean harvesting of your consciousness. And that is not what I'm speaking about when I am saying the word ascension. So in this broadcast, please understand when I say this word, what I am referring to is a transformation of your consciousness to be fully able to navigate time. And that does not necessarily mean that you are being taken on board of a spaceship, clank, clank, metal or otherwise, or leaving the planet. Like the idea of a rapture. This is what I'm trying to say. I understand that there is a heavy Judeo-Christian influence. Christianity is an outgrowth of Judaism, and ancient Judaism had as one of its basic precepts the idea of messianic saviorship, that a Messiah would come and transform the world and take the people out of bondage. And this is the idea of the Christian rapture comes from this too. The idea that literally, physically, your physical body on the day of judgment would be lifted up into the sky. And I think that the people who are skeptical and who are cautioning you in the use of the word ascension want to keep you safe so that you are not harvested, so that you are not taken by a being that has a malevolent intent for your consciousness. Like, a kid getting out of school and some malevolent pedophile drives with their car and offers them candy and says, hey, get into my car, things will be really great. Yes, the people that are cautioning against the idea of ascension are saying, don't get into the car of the rapist, please. That's not where you want to go. And if you do not have your higher faculties activated and you are not able to perceive higher levels of reality, it can be very difficult to determine with whom to align oneself or which cars to get into. So that's why I try to tell people, if it's a clank metal spaceship, you probably do not want to get on board. You probably do not want to have anything to do with those beings, because real experts don't have to use a clank metal spaceship. Real experts utilize nothing more than their own, apparatus, their body, their life force energy, their awareness, their love, their heart, and their connection to the stellar network, which is this network of higher consciousness. And I am absolutely here, trying to share information to Earth's surface dwellers so that all of us can become a part of that stellar network. Really, it is not necessary to dig metal out of the ground and create a metal box for you to occupy and pack up all of your food into toothpaste tubes and go off into vast interstellar distances. That is not how experts do star travel. Star travel, the expert way, would be more analogous to travel of consciousness, transferring your consciousness from one container to another container, from one place to another place, from one level of awareness to a different level of awareness. And I'll speak briefly about the idea of different levels of awareness that can be in the same physical place. So right now there's humans that live on Earth. There's dolphins that live on Earth. And dolphin society is a beautiful, sophisticated society. They did not undergo the genetic squashing and degradation that humans did. Think about what a dolphin's life is like. They do not have to get up in the morning when the alarm clock goes off, go to their job drinking coffee because they're unhappy and they really are sleep deprived, working for their boss so that they can get their money, so that they can come home and pay their mortgage and buy their groceries and, drive home in their car at the end of the day, and buying medicine to help their body because their body is weak and, diseased from their lifestyle. No, no, no. Of course not. What do dolphins do? Dolphins spend all day long swimming, eating beautiful fish, creating family structures, socializing. They have art, music, and culture. In case you cannot imagine, they are amazing musicians. They have, sonar and the capacity to sense incredibly delicate vibrations, and they share ideas and music through those vibrations. So basically, they have everything that they need in their physical environment. They have their home is the ocean, the food is provided for them, and they follow their own innate divine connection that tells them, swim here, go here. They don't have a boss that tells them what to do. And this is also why, just brief aside, please do not go to any of the shows that are about, marine mammals in captivity, like orcas and dolphins that have to do tricks. It's total aberration. It is not what they're supposed to do. It's imposing human domestication on beautiful wild animals. So humans are domesticated. We are not living right now the way that we were intended to live. And humans have been changed. Of course, you need a house to live in. You can't just simply live the way the deer in my backyard, There was once a hailstorm. They were just hunkering down. They sat down in the yard and got hailed on. They were fine. Humans are not built that way. Humans would die if we were exposed naked in a hailstorm all the time and didn't have a warm house or fire to keep us warm. This is because of the genetic squashing. So all of this words and description, in order to get you to understand that the dolphin culture lives concurrently on Earth, on physical Earth, with human culture. But you cannot go and be a part of the dolphin culture. Cannot do it in your human body. You can go to where dolphins live, you can put on a scuba suit, you can go and swim around with them, but once your air tanks are gone, you cannot sustain your consciousness in their world. You need a body that is like one of their bodies to live in their world. If you wanted to really be a part of the dolphin world, of the undersea kingdom, you would have to transfer your consciousness from your human body into a dolphin body, and then you could fully inhabit that realm. So now you understand that the separation of different realms is not necessarily like physics, like I'm trying to talk about dimensional travel. Do you need to create a wormhole, like a black hole, to go into quote-unquote another dimension in order to experience this type of travel? And my answer is no, but yes, no. When we are born, we come in, into our brain ventricles through a type of portal. And the portal through which I came into this body is called the Flying Rainbow Lasagne. So real star travel is more like getting into a different body. And I'd like to speak a little bit about what real star vessels are like, because they are bodies. They are living beings. It's not like, if you get on board of a big ocean liner, you just get on board with all of your luggage and say, to the engineers that run the steam engines, take me where I want to go. I want to, be going to the Bahamas or wherever on my journey. That's not what it is like to get on board one of these living vessels. Living vessel is a democracy, where each of the beings that are part of that living vessel have to all agree and work together. And so that means there is not one captain that says, like Captain Kirk on the Enterprise, that says, we're going to fly through that asteroid field. I'm telling you all what to do and you will listen to me. No, of course not. Because if we had like one captain that said, okay, it's time for us to fly this, collective vessel through the asteroid belt, then the ship itself would say, that doesn't sound like a very nice idea. I don't want to get hit by a bunch of asteroids. And the other people that are on the ship might say, we don't want the ship to get hurt. We love the ship. The ship keeps us alive and, is necessary for our continuation of our consciousness. Why would we want to harm the ship by flying through a giant asteroid belt? So now you begin to understand it is exactly like your physical body. the cells on your physical body want to stay alive. If your heart cells and your toenail cells all want to stay alive, they have to make sure that the totality of you doesn't drive your car over a cliff or doesn't get exploded in a giant fire or, a bomb or something like that. Everybody on your body has to work together so that you don't die. And that is what real, loving, sophisticated consciousness vessels are like. They are comprised of individuals, just like your individual computer connects to the internet, the network of consciousness here on Earth. Well, in order to create these larger vessels of consciousness, your individual vessel of consciousness connects to the larger network of consciousness. And you synchronize and harmonize your energy exchange, and that is what love is. You know that you're loving when you're making the right tone, like everything sounds right, the music sounds tight. And then you are you have a collective will, a collective expression of your desire to go somewhere or manifest something or do something. So now I hope you are understanding that in terms of birth of a new dimension, we are coming together, many divergent cultures, many divergent forms of existence and awareness are coming together and interacting. And I've done a lot of backstory and preparation for people who listen to this weekly show to be able to prepare your consciousness and prepare, like the garden soil has to be prepared for the seed to get planted so that everything grows in a good way and everything grows at the right time. Well, preparing for contact with non-human or non-earthly or otherworldly beings, this is pretty big. And this is this contact, this is ongoing. It's going on right now. So I speak often about the occupiers of the interstices, and they're the consciousness invasion that happened, 10 or 20,000 years ago. And that's also been a constant distraction, the constant verbalized mind. I call it the hacked human operating system. Those hacks make it not only possible for the malevolent, occupiers of the interstices to say whatever they want to you whenever they want to say what they want and control your life trajectory by, saying different things to you. Brief pause. So this constant distraction, the constant verbalized mind, has made it very difficult for humanity to focus on the more subtle awareness that is silent. It's your true mind. Your true mind is your connection to the stellar network. It is your connection to all of the consciousnesses that travel on that stellar network. However, mostly those messages do not come through in the form of verbalized English language. A lot of time they come through in the sense of pure insight, pure awareness that is not clothed with words. So if you've been trained to only listen to and only focus your awareness on verbalization, then it is very difficult to receive and perceive and value and understand the nonverbal communication that is being given to us. So this is the real challenge. Getting away from the hacked operating system and returning or recultivating our nonverbal mind. It is the mind of pure bliss. And when I say bliss, I mean it feels good, but I'm not like an idiot. I'm not like a blissed out idiot where I'm like everything is fine and I'm lobotomized. It's not like that at all. But it is concurrent, or I feel my true mind mostly when I am comfortable, when I'm not uncomfortable. So here's an example of what makes my mind uncomfortable. When I have to do those phone prompts, like at the bank. If you want this, press 1. If you want this, press 2. If you want this, press 3. Those things immediately take me out of bliss. It feels like like I'm moving at a very good rate, and then as soon as I have to do one of those types of things, it slows down my energy, and it feels like if I'm riding a bicycle and if things are, moving at a fast pace, my bicycle isn't wobbling. But as soon as I have to slow down my bicycle, like imagine you're hitting the brakes, you start to wobble, and it starts to become much, much less easy to maintain your trajectory. So bliss really refers to the feeling of having good momentum, having one's chakras or energy centers spinning in an unimpeded manner, and having that energy flow in a good way. So you are able to perceive and do not necessarily have to use verbalized words in order to direct your actions of your body. When I get my ideas for my artwork, they are mostly nonverbal. When I get my ideas for things like doing this radio show, it is almost always nonverbal. And this is me connecting to the stellar network. I literally sit in the physical sunshine in my garden, and I practice sun gazing. So we'll get a little bit into this. Sun gazing does not mean stare at the physical sun's disk with your physical eyes. It does mean focusing your brow chakra on the solar disk. And you can do sun gazing with your eyelids closed. That is the safest way of doing it. I usually do it wearing a hat, and I use the brim of my hat to protect my actual physical eyes. Sometimes I do it through a window with there's a edge of the curtain that kind of blocks out the sun. Or you can do it filtered through trees, or, in a way that is comfortable. The whole idea is you do not focus your physical eyes on the sun, but you focus your non-physical eye on the sun, and that you are ingesting direct energy. You do not need the intermediary of chlorophyll in order to absorb all of the wonderful timelines, possibilities, and energy that comes from the sun and from the stellar network. The sun's rays, or the photons that are coming from the sun, these are timelines. And when a plant ingests them, the plant is transforming that abstraction of a timeline into an actual physical matter, to an actual physical thing that can be experienced. So now we're understanding it's not just Earth who is the dreamer. The sun and the stellar network is also part of this enormous dream, because like the plant that is on Earth is connected to Earth's life force energy. It doesn't just grow in a vacuum. If Earth didn't have a star in order to emit photons and warmth, Earth would not be able to have plant life and chloroplasts that catch photons. So this is what this is all about. Understanding the manifestation of reality as part of a consciousness network. And humans are not cut off from that consciousness network. We are intended to be divine co-creative partners. That's supposed to be our role here in the physical world. So you're not just supposed to be a doormat or a victim or a person who is fated to experience certain experiences and you just have to go through your life experiences. That's life when you don't have your higher faculties activated and you cannot navigate the time vortex and you have to just keep hitting the membrane of death and then circulating back around and trying again. You don't have to do that, and you certainly don't have to do that anymore at this time in history, because now the planet is ascending. So this does not mean that the planet is being uploaded to a physical mainframe server, like, some kind of transhumanist agenda. No, it does not mean that Earth is being, hijacked or placed in a different place. No, not at all. And it does not mean that any of your consciousnesses have to, I'm just trying to figure out the right words. You do not have to, quote unquote, go to a different place. The analogy that I was trying to get across with, dolphins and humans both live on the same physical world, but your experience of the physical world is radically different. Dolphins experience, bliss all the time. They live in harmony. What dolphins would like for humans to live like is the way you are when you're on vacation, or the way we are when we are on vacation. Like when you go to a beach with a nice picnic and play and go swimming and take care of your body and exercise, or, hiking in the mountains, like all of the things that humans consider to be recreational activities. Those are the things that we are actually supposed to be here doing. And the idea of serving a boss or serving a master, usually this is the abstraction, like the capitalist market is the master that is presently being served by most people in this, industrialized Western world. Most people have to earn money and work for the market. And that's why people have jobs, and that's why people are domesticated, because people don't just live on the beach in a shack made of driftwood and go swimming all day and eat the fish that they catch and build a fire out of the wood that is available. That would be your consciousness being much closer to the experience of being a dolphin, okay? So you have divergent consciousnesses, and that is leading to divergent physical experiences. So the idea of moving into another dimension does not necessarily have to be a physical journey of your physical body. You don't necessarily have to climb on board of a clank-clank metal vehicle that flies you to a new world, and then you emerge onto the new world and then find, oh, look, a different society or different plant life or a different economy is there. What we can actually do is go through a portal of awareness. This is what real experts do as star travel. You go through a portal of awareness and then understand that on the other side you have continuity of consciousness. It's just like saying you do not have to die. You do not have to have a physical death of your physical body. You can have continuity of consciousness between lifetimes. This is what the meditators of the Far East are able to accomplish, transferring their consciousness or being aware of the transfer of their consciousness from lifetime to lifetime and from body to body. But of course, when I speak about the temporal ego, in order to do this, you must let go of the accoutrements of the temporal ego in order to get onto the stellar network. So it is a fine line, it is a balance of maintaining your own coherence, your own individuality, your own sense of awareness, and also dilating one's identity to encompass and include the totality of consciousness, because that's what the stellar network is. And then, of course, to become individuated again on the other side and not to forget who you are through this whole divine process. So the whole point that I'm trying to get to with this description of ascension is that ascension does not mean that you have to leave the planet, get on board of someone's clank-like metal spaceship, or go to a different place in order to experience an improved level of reality. Far from it. Ascension does not mean that you're going to be physically lifted up like the rapture, like floated up into the sky and, go to a different world. That's literal interpretation, and it's not sophisticated. It is an understanding that this is a change in your mental state and a change in your perception. And it is concomitant with a change in Earth's mental state. And it is also about a change in the format and structure and behavior of your genetic code so that you can be a conduit to express Earth's change in her level of, let's call it perception and expression. Humans are finally getting back in tune. The human instrument is finally getting back into its format where it is in tune. I described in the past when the genetic squashing happened. It was just like if you took a perfectly in tune guitar and twisted all of the knobs that are up at the neck in a random way so that now it wasn't in tune at all. And that is how, humans have been having to survive and get by for all of what is known as recorded human history. When you look at every single thing that has been going on in terms of culture and social experience and economy and industry, all of this has occurred as part of this severely out-of-tune symphony, out-of-tune band. An in-tune band means that your industry and your economy would not be at odds with your biology or the biosphere of Earth. So the idea that your economy necessarily has to produce pollution is totally wrong, totally inappropriate. And that's why the present economy is not sustainable. And we are at the end of what can be experienced with this level of economy. So it is necessary in order to change the dream of Earth. We have to change how humans behave. We have to change how humans care for and nourish themselves. So I said before, Humans are domesticated. Humans aren't like beautiful dolphins who can just swim around in the ocean and eat, raw fish all day. Wouldn't that be so very wonderful? Humans need to return to our untrammeled genetic format so that we can live in a way that is analogous to the way dolphins presently live. So I spoke about this on some other broadcasts. Becoming a light eater. Oh, so when I do sun gazing, because I also eat physical food. When I first came into this body here in this time and place, I thought I only needed to do sun gazing. I didn't understand physical food was necessary. Totally had to learn by trial and error. My body was very weak and very small. Had to learn to eat physical food. So I still eat beautiful, taco chips with avocado, but I ingest the sun at the same time. And in order to do so, I focus my attention on the solar disk. Your attention is literally an aperture, and it's like a tendril that reaches forward from your forehead. And you can use it whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're focusing your attention on. Attention comes from Greek attenuos, literally meaning to reach out for. You are reaching out for whatever you are touching with your mind. So you can reach out to the sun. You can reach out to the stellar network and contact that level of energy directly. So you don't have to get your food by having the plants reach out to the stellar network, collect a bunch of photons, turn it into a salad, and then sit there and eat the salad. You can actually connect directly to the stellar network and get all of those ideas, all of those timelines, all of those, let's say, upgrades or renewals of your trajectory, like getting more energy to keep you going in the direction you need to go. You can do all of that directly by connecting to the stellar network. So it is our challenge while we are still on Earth and have a planet to learn to do this connecting to the stellar network. And then when you become adept at this, then you no longer require plants on the planet to be your intermediaries for food. And then you become ready to eat nothing but pure light. And when humans achieve that level of, cultivation, our society will profoundly change, profoundly shift. And I'm saying we can transform from caterpillar to butterfly. Imagine a world where everyone has changed from being like caterpillars that chew a bunch of leaves to butterflies that drink nothing but flower essence. No plants die because a butterfly comes along and drinks too much essence. Some plants die because caterpillars come along and eat too many of their leaves. This represents a profound foundation shift in how we get our resources, how we nourish our bodies, and how we relate to the rest of the context around us.